Welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're going to step into a world that's both fascinating and honestly a bit frustrating sometimes. The world of medico-legal reports. You know, those reports, right, where like a doctor's assessment can really make or break a case like in a personal injury or medical negligence claim.
Yeah, absolutely. It's this like collision point between medicine and law, right? And the stakes are so high. A doctor's opinion, it's powerful stuff.
Exactly. And we're tackling this from two different angles, kind of, today. We've got first some marketing material from this company, ML Professionals. They're a big player in the UK for medical legal services. It's like getting a sneak peek behind the scenes of a company that's been killing it in this field like since 2008.
Right, we get to see what they're all about. And then we've also got this document that lays out like the pain points, right? The stuff that frustrates lawyers and doctors who work in this area. And it even suggests some topics for a podcast, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so it's almost like we're getting both sides of this story.
Yeah.
You know, we see what the company's proud of and then what the lawyers on the ground are still struggling with.
Exactly, yeah. A real inside look.
So by the end of this deep dive, you'll have a solid grasp on like the big challenges and maybe some potential solutions in this whole medical legal world, even if you've never even been near a courtroom. Sound good?
Yeah, let's do it. Unpack this whole thing.
Okay, so let's start with ML Professionals.
Mhm.
They've had pretty impressive growth. Started in 2008, and now they're in over 20 locations all across the UK with a network of like over 100 professionals.
Wow, that's a lot of expansion, especially for such a specialized field, right?
Right.
They must be doing something right to earn that kind of trust from their clients. And what stands out to me is how they really highlight these enduring partnerships and exceeding client expectations.
It's true. They put a lot of emphasis on those relationships, which, you know, makes sense. It seems like building those strong connections with law firms is a big part of their success. But it's not just about people skills, is it? They also talk about their in-house IT division, right?
Hmm.
And this state-of-the-art medical report management system they've got.
Yeah, technology is definitely a core part of what they do. It makes you wonder, are they using this tech to like tackle those frustrations that lawyers often have with the traditional way medical legal stuff gets done? Are they like bridging that gap between medicine and law through, streamlined systems?
That's a great question. And speaking of bridging gaps, ML Professionals, they adapted really well during the whole COVID-19 pandemic. They rolled out this hybrid examination model using, get this, televideo orthopedic examinations and bespoke software.
Bespoke software, yeah. In this context, I'm guessing that means software specifically designed for these like remote orthopedic assessments, which is pretty cool. It's great to see how they innovated, to keep things running during such a tough time. And it's even more impressive that they didn't stop there.
Okay, I'm hooked. What else did they do?
They actually had their whole hybrid practice audited. And the findings were like published in a peer-reviewed medical journal. So they're putting their methods out there for scrutiny, which shows real commitment to transparency, and to maintaining high standards, even while trying new ways of doing things.
That's a really good point. So they're clearly a company that's all about innovation, technology, and those client relationships, right?
Hmm.
But let's shift gears for a second and look at like the flip side of this coin. What are the challenges that lawyers actually face when they're dealing with these medical legal reports?
Yeah, it's crucial to remember that even with companies like ML Professionals trying to improve things, there are still some pretty fundamental issues within this field that need to be, addressed.
Right. And this document we have, it really digs into those issues, no sugarcoating. It lays out some serious pain points that lawyers deal with every day. Let's unpack some of those, starting with the personal injury claims. So the document, it says one of the biggest frustrations is delays. Just getting those crucial reports back from medical experts takes forever.
Delays are a huge problem, and it's not just about like inconvenience. Delays have this ripple effect, right? They can impact the whole case. They drag out the process, stress out the clients who are just waiting for answers, and can even affect the financial stability of both lawyers and the medical experts.
Yeah, so it's way more than a minor annoyance. It's a systemic issue that needs some real attention. And the document points to like difficulty scheduling appointments with busy surgeons and then the long turnaround times for those reports as major contributors to those delays. But it doesn't stop there, right?
Oh, no. The document goes on to highlight concerns about the quality and consistency of the actual reports themselves, Like sometimes they're just not clear, they lack structure, and there are even times when they miss key legal information.
Oh, wow. That's like a recipe for disaster in court.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to build a solid case when the medical report itself is unclear or missing important details. And then on top of all of that, you've got this administrative nightmare that lawyers have to deal with. They're stuck chasing down reports, asking for corrections, and basically acting as like the middleman between these two very different professional worlds.
Yeah, it really highlights this disconnect between the medical and legal professions. They operate with like different priorities, different ways of communicating, even different terminology. It creates so much unnecessary friction and inefficiency.
It's like they're speaking different languages, almost. And it's not just time-consuming, it's financially stressful for both sides, right?
Yeah.
The document points out issues with upfront fees, no guarantee of actually getting the report even after you pay, and cases dropping out, which leaves everyone in a tough spot financially.
Yeah, the financial aspect just adds another layer of complexity to this already complicated situation. This lack of clarity and security around payments, it just adds to the frustration and uncertainty that everyone's feeling.
And of course, you can't forget about compliance. The document also flags that the reports sometimes just don't meet the necessary legal standards,
Yeah.
whether that's because the doctors don't quite understand the requirements or just because of the pressure of those tight deadlines. It's a huge problem.
This is where, like, bridging that knowledge gap between doctors and lawyers is so important. Maybe there needs to be more training or resources available to make sure that medical experts really understand the legal side of things, how to present their findings effectively within that legal context.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a real need for clarity, standardization, maybe even some industry-wide guidelines to make sure these reports are consistently hitting the mark. But let's not forget, this document also dives into the unique challenges of medical negligence claims. That's a whole other beast, right? We should probably get into that.
Oh, definitely. Medical negligence cases, they come with a whole set of complexities that are really important to understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, medical negligence claims, huh? Those are already tricky enough, even without the report issues.
Right. This document, it basically says those medical legal reports can turn a tough case into a total nightmare.
Well, think about it. In medical negligence, it's not just about showing someone got hurt. You have to prove the healthcare provider, really messed up. Like,
Yeah.
they breached their duty of care, and that's what caused the harm to the patient.
Okay, so causation is the key word here. For our listeners who aren't lawyers, can you break that down a bit? What does causation really mean in these cases?
Sure. Basically, causation in this legal sense means you got to prove that direct link, right, between what the doctor did or didn't do and the bad outcome for the patient. It's not enough to just say, oh, something bad happened after I saw this doctor. You got to prove their actions were the direct cause, the reason that harm happened.
Gotcha. So the bar is way higher than just proving someone's injured.
Yeah.
And this document, it points out that proving that causation, especially in these medical negligence cases, often means you need multiple expert opinions, which of course adds to the cost and makes everything more complex.
Exactly. You might need experts from all sorts of medical specialties to weigh in, and finding those experts, it's not always easy. The document actually mentions there's just not a lot of experts out there who are willing to take on these really complex medical negligence cases, which, drives up the cost and creates those delays you talked about.
So it's almost like a supply and demand problem, right?
Yeah.
Fewer experts willing to do this work, but huge demand because these cases are so complicated.
You got it. And that scarcity, it raises some questions about bias, too. If an expert is like one of the only few who specializes in a specific area, are they more likely to side with the doctor, or the patient? It's a touchy subject that the legal system has got to deal with.
It definitely adds another wrinkle to an already pretty messed up system.
Yeah.
And to make things worse, this document suggests that those same report problems we saw in the personal injury cases, like the clarity, consistency, meeting legal standards, it's all even worse with medical negligence.
Well, yeah. The stakes are just so much higher in these cases, right?
Yeah.
Financially, for sure, and for everyone's reputation. So those flaws in the reports, they become a way bigger deal. A poorly written report, an incomplete one, that can tank an entire case, no matter what the medical facts actually say.
It just shows how important specialized training is, and maybe even some mentorship programs for those medical experts who are just starting out in this medical legal world, especially with these medical negligence cases.
100% agree. But, this document, it's not all doom and gloom. Remember those podcast topics it suggested? It's almost like it's advocating for better communication, more education within the field. Like, it's recognizing the problems and trying to be part of the solution.
Yeah, it's like they're saying, hey, we have these problems, but let's talk about them. Let's figure out how to fix them. I love that proactive approach. So let's dive into those potential podcast topics they suggested. Maybe we can find some like nuggets of wisdom in there.
Yeah, let's see what they came up with.
Okay, the first one is how to speed up personal injury claims with efficient medical reporting. Clearly, those delays we talked about are a huge pain point. It feels like a podcast dedicated to like practical solutions for faster turnaround times would be super popular with lawyers.
Oh, for sure. Think about it. You could have experts in the whole medical legal process talking about stuff like standardized templates for reports, structured systems, maybe even some AI-powered tools that could streamline everything. And it's not just about the tech either. Emphasizing how important clear communication is between lawyers and doctors, that'd be a huge help.
Totally. It's like building a shared language,
Hmm.
minimizing those misunderstandings that cause all those delays. The next topic is understanding the legal requirements in medico-legal reports. This one seems crucial for bridging that knowledge gap we keep talking about, right? Between the doctors and the lawyers.
I'm picturing a podcast where, like, legal experts break down all those essential parts of a solid medical legal report. They could talk about things like causation, prognosis, and how to explain how the injuries will affect the client's life long term. That would be so helpful for doctors who are new to all this.
Yeah, it's like Legal 101 for medical professionals. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, this one feels like it could go both ways. Best practices for lawyers when working with medical experts. Both sides could learn something there.
Absolutely. Lawyers could learn how to streamline that communication with the experts and avoid some common mistakes. And then doctors, they could get a better understanding of what the lawyers actually need from them to build a good case. It's about making that relationship more collaborative, so everyone benefits.
Okay, now this next one is really interesting. The future of medico-legal reports. AI and digital workflows. The possibilities with this are pretty mind-blowing.
This is where it gets really exciting. We're already seeing AI being used in so many parts of healthcare, so it makes sense to think about how it could change this field too, right? Imagine like systems powered by AI that analyze medical records, and then they suggest relevant legal cases or even help write the reports so they're consistent and meet those legal standards.
It sounds futuristic, but it's already happening, right? And think about the benefits. Fewer errors, faster reports, maybe even lower costs overall.
Of course, we got to be realistic. It's not all perfect. There are definitely ethical things to consider, like making sure humans are still involved in the process and watching out for bias in those algorithms. But the potential for AI to really shake things up in this field, it's huge.
It's true. Technology should be a tool to help us, not replace our judgment altogether. Okay, this next topic gets right to the heart of medical negligence. Addressing common pitfalls in medical negligence cases.
Those cases are tough, and any advice on how to avoid delays and build a stronger case would be gold. Imagine a podcast with experienced medical negligence lawyers sharing all their tips. They could talk about how to choose the best expert witnesses, how to deal with those complex medical records, even like the art of telling a compelling story to the judge and jury.
It'd be like having a personal mentor right there in your pocket, guiding you through all the ins and outs of these challenging cases. And last but not least, we've got a topic that tackles the elephant in the room. How to ensure payment security in medico-legal work.
Ah, yes. The money stuff. This topic, it acknowledges that anxiety, that real concern about getting paid. A podcast episode that looks at different solutions, like maybe guaranteed payments through a third-party system or creative ways to structure fees so there's less risk for everyone, that'd be game-changing.
It's about making the system fair for everyone.
Yeah.
Right? Transparent and, financially sustainable. Okay, so we've gone through all the podcast topics they suggested, and wow, there's some really insightful ideas here. It's clear people want to learn and improve things in this field.
It really feels like a call to action for the entire medical legal world, doesn't it? A plea for everyone to be more open, to work together more, and to be willing to try new things, new technologies to make this whole system better.
Yeah. Speaking of calls to action, I want to turn the mic over to you, our listener. If you were creating a podcast for this audience, what's the one question you'd be dying to ask the experts? What insights, what experiences, what perspectives do you think would really shed light on this complex world?
Yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts. But before you go too deep on that question, let's wrap up this deep dive. What are the big takeaways here?
It's true, isn't it? It's kind of amazing how those podcast ideas they suggested, they really get to the heart of what's going on in this whole field.
Right. Like they pinpoint those problems and then boom, they're already looking for solutions, which is really cool to see.
Yeah, it's so refreshing, you know? You don't always see a document that not only admits there are problems, but actually encourages people to talk about them, share their knowledge, and find ways to move forward. And there's actually one more topic they suggested that we didn't get to yet. Court compliance and expert testimonies. What lawyers should know. Ooh, that's a good one. It feels like the culmination of everything we've talked about, you know?
Hmm.
That moment of truth when a doctor's expertise is really put to the test in the courtroom.
And what's really interesting about this topic is that human element, you know. We think of medico-legal reports as these dry, technical documents, but at the end of the day, they're about people, their lives. And when an expert has to testify, their ability to explain all that complex medical stuff clearly and with confidence, that can really sway the outcome.
It's like this blend of science and storytelling and legal strategy all at once. A podcast with like seasoned medico-legal experts sharing their courtroom tips, that would be so valuable for both doctors and lawyers.
Oh, absolutely. Imagine them talking about how to get ready for court, how to handle those tough questions from the other side, how to stay calm under pressure. It'd be like a masterclass in communication, but in this really specific legal context.
Plus, they could get into the psychology of it all, you know, how to connect with a jury, how to be believable and trustworthy throughout the whole thing.
Exactly. It's not just about reciting medical facts. It's about presenting them in a way that a normal person can understand, that makes sense to them, and that convinces them, you know?
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of medico-legal reports,
Hmm.
what are the big takeaways for our listeners? What's the overall message here?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that these medico-legal reports, they're crucial. They might get overlooked sometimes, but they're a huge part of personal injury and medical negligence cases. They connect medicine and law, and they provide evidence that can really change people's lives.
And even though those reports are so important, we've seen that the process of getting them and making sure they're good quality, it's full of challenges. There are delays, inconsistencies, administrative headaches, and all the financial uncertainty. It creates problems for everyone involved.
But it's not all bad news, right? We've also seen how companies like ML Professionals are using technology and trying new approaches to try and iron out some of those kinks in the system.
Yeah, it's really encouraging. Their focus on building those strong relationships with clients, using technology to streamline their work, and just their willingness to adapt to new situations like the pandemic, it shows that they're really committed to making things better.
And even the fact that this document exists, you know, the way it lays out the problems so clearly and then offers suggestions for fixing them, it just shows that people in this industry are realizing things need to change.
It feels like this collective push for better collaboration, clearer communication, and being open to new ideas, new technology to improve this whole medico-legal landscape.
Exactly. And for our listener, the takeaway is this. Whether you're a patient, a lawyer, or a medical professional, it's so important to understand how complex this whole field is, all the nuances.
These reports can have a massive impact on people's lives, and advocating for a system that's fair, efficient, and transparent, that's a win for everyone.
So as you keep learning and navigating this world, remember to communicate clearly, be empathetic, and really try to find solutions that put fairness and justice first.
Well said. And that's a wrap on our deep dive into the fascinating and sometimes frustrating world of medico-legal reports. We hope this has given you some insight, maybe even sparked some ideas for how we can make this important field better.